Good morning, everyone. Good morning, all parents, and a warm welcome to this special session which we are having on IB. And we've all gathered here on this momentous day indeed as we celebrate the birth anniversaries of perhaps the two of the greatest leaders this country has ever known. Father of our nation, Sri Mahatma Gandhi ji, and of course our former Prime Minister, Sri Lal Bahadur Shastri ji. They taught us to be fearless of change, and embrace new things. And perhaps that is what we are doing at DPS GBN as well, as we are, going to include IB in our curriculum. And we have been joined today by our leaders, members of our Management Council, Pro VC Vineet Nayyar sir, good morning sir. Reva Nayyar ma'am, good morning ma'am. And Shivanand sir, a very good morning sir. And of course, our very dear and charming principal ma'am, Supriti ma'am, good morning ma'am. And of course, now let me introduce the man of the hour today, right now, Mr. Hector Andrade. A very warm welcome, sir. Good morning. And parents and students, let me tell you about Mr. Hector. He's the former principal of Mercedes-Benz International School at Pune. And prior to that, he's had a nearly quarter of a century teaching experience while he taught philosophy as an associate professor. So even as I say this sounds very exciting that, he must have had ideas on so many things. And Sir has also been associated with world bodies like UNESCO in various capacities. And let me tell you that not only is he an academic, he is also a sports person because he's played, basketball at the national level, and of course has represented his alma mater in athletics, soccer, cricket, and volleyball. So holistic development, what we talk about is probably what Mr. Hector has, lived through. And I'm sure, sir, you will have a lot to teach us today. And, as we switch to IB, leading us through this change is our principal, Supriti ma'am. Supriti ma'am, please address this online gathering. Request
Yeah,
you. Thank you, ma'am.
thank you so much, Mugdha. I won't take much time. Mugdha has already kind of said such nice words and welcoming the parents. At this point, I'd especially like to thank our parents who actually coaxed us, cajoled us into taking this decision, which we were kind of still sitting on the fence about, that whether we should have an additional board IB apart from the CBSE that we have. So thank you, dear parents. If it had not been for your visits to the school, your emails, your phone calls asking us to go in for it, I don't think we would have done it. A special thank you to Mr. Hector for having spared time for us. I know you're a very, very busy man and much sought after. And thank you so much for coming here and addressing our set of parents. I can see so many other guests also. I can see Bharat sir. I can see our principal, Mr. Kakaria from our sister school, Cathedral Vidya. Welcome you. I welcome you here. I think without wasting any more time, may I request Mr. Hector to please proceed further. In case you have any support that you desire from our IT setup, please feel free to share it right here. We'll be very happy to support and do any kind of troubleshooting for you. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that very warm welcome, and good morning. Good morning to all of you. Okay, and especially Mr. and Mrs. Nair, Mr. Shivanand, Principal Supriti, members of the staff, students. A very good morning to all of you, and it's my absolute pleasure to be spending this few minutes, okay, literally, with all of you. I will begin by making a short presentation. Okay, where firstly I will look at something called philosophy. I'll explain you why I will be talking about the philosophy, because I'm trying to focus on what I can give you in a unique way. Okay, what I can uniquely contribute to this new discussion that is going on among your management, staff, students, parents, of going in for the new board. So you need as many insights as possible. So I'm going to share my insights into education basically, and mainly with the IB. That is what I'm going to do. The first part will very much be on the philosophy. The second part, I will be talking a little bit about the context in which our students live, okay, grow up and make their future pathways. And finally, I want to focus on a few strengths of the IB, because that is very important for all of us as educationists, as well as for the parents to kind of make a decision on which academic pathways they would want their children to take. Okay, so I will now begin by going into the philosophy. I have a brief presentation, so I will try and share the presentation here. So let's hope I succeed with that. I'm sharing my screen just now. Okay, yeah. So please let me know if you can see my screen.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so I'll just start the presentation. Okay, so the title here very much is, of course, Understanding the IBDP. Okay, that's a title. And the first thing, as I said, is the philosophy of the IB curriculum. Okay, this word philosophy can be a little scary for some people. So just to clarify that word, okay, I've had my basic training in philosophy. So, and I've taught philosophy for 25 years, and I think it's one of the most fascinating subjects that one can study. And in fact, the IB is the only curriculum that offers philosophy as a full subject at the diploma. Okay, it offers philosophy at the standard level as well as the higher level. Okay, and that's something very, very amazing, that it's offered already for students at the 11th and 12th standard. Okay, yeah. So philosophy in simple words is a worldview. Okay, and all of us therefore are philosophers. Okay, and therefore I say it's not a scary term, because all of us have a worldview. A view. Can everyone please mute their phones? I'm getting some echo. Just mute everyone. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So philosophy is at the foundations of everything that we do. Okay, all of us, whether we like it or not, take decisions every moment of our lives. Okay, we are constantly taking decisions, and these decisions are based on certain understandings that we have about the world, about other people, about God, and about success, and all these things. We all have a philosophy. Okay, so all of us that way are philosophers, though we don't have the function of being philosophers in society. Not all of us. Okay, some people have a specialized function of being philosophers. So philosophy is underlying value systems that exist everything, all of our lives, including, okay, the curriculums that are on offer. So the IB curriculum, it's very important for us to understand, has what we call a very liberal understanding of what knowledge is, what understanding is, and what some mics need to be muted, please. Okay, I'm getting some echo. Okay, so this word liberal has been very often misunderstood. Okay, yeah, liberal I sometimes understood as, you can do anything. Not really. Okay, liberal means somebody who's open-minded. Okay, somebody who's open to new things, and very much as you as a school, as the management board, as the parents are now open-minded to looking at the IB. Okay, that's already being liberal. Okay, yeah, it also means respecting diversity, respecting differences, respecting new things. And if you read the vision statement of the IB, okay, there is a line there which says that other people with their differences can also be right. Okay, other people with their differences can also be right. Now that statement can only come out of a liberal outlook. Okay, similarly, another important aspect of the liberal philosophy of the IB is cooperation. Okay, it's very clearly understood that the future of the world, okay, is not going to be based on conflict. Okay, conflict is not going to get us too far. Okay, that's already part of the past, where we are going to war and fighting with one another. Now increasingly, when we look at, okay, the future of our children, okay, they are going to face global issues. We are already facing it. Okay, things like climate change cannot be solved by going to war and by fighting with one another. Climate change is a global issue, so we all need to come together and do something about it. All of us have just lived through a pandemic. Okay, this is something that all our students can relate to, and the pandemic cannot be overcome by fighting, by conflict. The pandemic can only be overcome by cooperation. Okay, cooperation becomes very, very important. And as I go along in the third part of this presentation, where I talk about the strengths of the IB, I will show how these values come out. Okay, where do they appear? Open-mindedness, respect, cooperation, and all of this. Okay, and sometimes I want to just go a little bit into Indian philosophy now, because sometimes there is a myth. Okay, and the myth is that sometimes this IB, because it's an international thing, it comes from abroad, is necessarily antithetic to what we believe in India. Okay, I would argue that it is quite the contrary. Okay, if I'm speaking too fast, please let me know. I'll try and go slowly, because not everyone may be fully comfortable with English. If I go too fast, please stop me, because this is a subject where I get a little overexcited. Okay, so you can slow me down if I'm too fast. Okay, yeah. So I want to say that this philosophy of the IB is very much rooted in the Indian philosophy as well. Okay, unfortunately, a lot of people who go around talking about Indian culture sometimes have not read Indian philosophy, have not understood Indian philosophy. Okay, if you look at Indian philosophy very closely, it is very open-minded. It's very respectful. Okay, and therefore I would say that, if you look at Indian philosophy, in India we had 6 different schools of philosophy, okay, which are called the Sada Darshanas. Okay, the 6 different views, and it was okay for people to have one belief rather than the other. Okay, the most prominent one, of course, is Advait Vedant, so a lot of people are familiar with Advait Vedant, but we have a lot of other schools of philosophy, 6 of them in fact, and all 6 in fact were respected. Yeah, they had very interesting discussions and debate and dialogue, because that is important for the growth of knowledge. Okay, and in fact, half of these schools in Indian philosophy were also Nastika, which means they didn't even believe in God, and it was okay. Nobody went after them to kill them. Okay, so remember that Indian philosophy, when you truly understand it, okay, it is open-minded, it is respectful, and in fact a lot of these views went to the West and then came back to us, if you really understand how history of philosophy works. Okay, yeah. So just remember that just because this is something that is international, coming from Geneva, coming from from the UK, it's not necessarily against Indian values, okay, and Indian system. So that's something I thought I would put right at the start, because sometimes we just believe, okay, that that this philosophy could be counter. It's not. Okay, so let's look at that closely. In fact, uh, a lot of the things I'm going to say later, I'm going to bring in those links to Indian philosophy, because it's worth looking at that. Okay, so when it comes to philosophy, remember that the IB is very liberal, open-minded, respectful, okay, and focusing on cooperation, because that is the future for a lot of our children. Okay, so with that I come to the next point. All right, we'll take questions at the end. Okay, we'll take questions. So if you have questions, please note them down. I hope you have a pen and paper. Just note down your questions, and I'll be open to questions. We'll have in fact probably half an hour for question answers at the end. Okay, yeah. I move to the next one, and the next one is the context. I think for all of us, when we go into something new or look at something new, it's very important to understand the context. Okay, what is the context in which we are taking this decision? Okay, and therefore, is the IB education relevant to the context in which we find ourselves today? Okay, yeah. So I like to focus, and even in a class, if I start a class, we always look at the context. So what I'm doing today, in fact, is following the pedagogy of the IB itself, and I will be putting you through some exercises this morning, so that you also get a taste of what the IB classroom looks like. Okay, so I want to do that as well. Okay, so one of the most important aspects of the context today that we find ourselves is exponential change. Exponential change, the word exponential means very, very rapid. Okay, those of us who study economics, we understand the meaning of the word exponential. Okay, Okay, yeah, those of us who are in stock market sometimes are happy if the market rises exponentially. Okay, yeah. So our context is marked by rapid change, and remember, our students are part of this. They are living this change on a day-to-day basis. Okay, and this change is not only marked by changing from iPhone 10 to iPhone 11 to iPhone 13. Okay, but it is part of every aspect of their life. Okay, and think of it. So some of our students who will be going into engineering, for instance, okay, by the time they reach the third year of their engineering, okay, a lot of things that they learned in the first year have already been outdated. That's a kind of change, okay, which we didn't find 20, 25 years ago. We didn't experience that kind of, and definitely, okay, my grandfather didn't experience that kind of change. Okay, so this change is very exponential, and it's very, very rapid. Okay, and this is seen in everything. Okay, I can give you tons and tons of examples of this change, but I suppose all of you understand when I say things are changing very, very rapidly. Okay, they say that today we have 5 times the amount of vocabulary that we have to kind of experience than in the time of Shakespeare. Okay, Shakespeare wrote about 400 years ago, and when we read Shakespeare, we say, wow, what language, what words, what vocabulary. And today we have 5 times the amount of words in the English language. Okay, that's a change. Okay, yeah. So change, remember, is everywhere. Okay, and we see this change, of course, in technology when things change technologically. But along with this, okay, change, we also have to cope with changing value systems. Okay, and we as parents sometimes can see the values that our children pick up, and then we say, oh God, we are so uncomfortable with that. So let's keep change at the center of today's discussion, because it's a very, very important part of the context. So we will have to ask this question: does the educational system factor in for this changing situation, for this ever changing context? Okay, and that's an important question. Does it factor in the things that things are changing rapidly? How does our educational system cope with that? And that question is then linked to the relevance of this educational system. Okay, yeah. So that is number one of the context. Yeah, I could go on, but I will keep myself, because yeah, from saying everything right at the start. Second, okay, the context of the changes in careers available. Okay, very, very important. So every parent has this question: where will my young boy, girl, son, daughter end up? What kind of career paths? When I was in school, we had engineering, okay, or you went to medicine, or then you did arts and commerce. Okay, there was very, very little scope. We just said arts, commerce, science, and then if you went to science, you look to, mainly do be an engineer or a doctor. Okay, we knew that. But today, the careers available are like changing every single day. Okay, they say that the top 10 jobs that are most sought after today were not available 10 years ago. Okay, 10 years ago they were not there. So we are in fact educating our children for careers that don't even exist. Okay, and that is the thing, that the careers don't exist. Yeah, and if you look at the career choices available to our students today, okay, they are mind boggling. Okay, I've been teaching my students for over 25 years now, and they are all over the world, my students. And when I kind of get in touch with them and know what they're doing, it kind of fascinates me, that there are these careers that are possible, and people have real satisfaction from doing things that they really enjoy, and that which gives them meaning. Okay, so careers, very important. Okay. Another thing that I would like to say about careers, okay, is also linked. Okay, not so much. I'll go back. Yeah, to a survey that was done among some of the top companies in the world. Okay, this survey was done about 10 years, and they interviewed and passed on this questionnaire to about 500 of the top companies. And the question that was asked was very simple, and this was done by a lot of colleges and universities. And they asked, what kind of young people do you want coming out of the universities? Right, that was a question. And when they asked this question, there were 3 points that came up as the most important to people who are hiring. Okay, people who are hiring young people. The number one thing was critical thinking. Okay, critical thinking. Okay, that's the first C. The second point that they were looking for is creative thinking. Okay, can this young person think creatively? So critical thinking, creative thinking, And the third one, which came up very, very strongly, was communication. Okay, can this young person communicate? Okay, and by communicate, of course, written, oral, can this person stand up and talk? Okay, can he communicate the brilliant ideas, creative ideas that he have? Okay, and see, communication is linked then to the other C's. Okay, you can think critically, but if you can't communicate it again, yeah, if you can think creatively but can't communicate it again. Okay, so just remember that these three C's are very, very important. And so you have to ask this question: does this educational system cater to these three C's? Okay, critical thinking, creative thinking, and then communication skills. Okay, yeah, all right. Then the third part of the context, okay, is that what we need today are leaders. Okay, we need good leaders. Okay, we don't want followers. We don't want to create sheep who will just, just follow, okay, and do things. Oh, my friend is doing this, so I am also doing this. Okay, and that is what we call the herd mentality. Okay, so we need to see whether the educational system is building, okay, people who can take up leadership, okay, or is it building mere followers who will just nod their head and just follow orders? Okay, so here's another question we need to ask with regard to the relevance. Okay, and this is very, very important. Third one of leadership. And fourth one, we would, I've put there, okay, because this is something that is relevant to the context. Okay, that in the IB, the curriculum is teacher driven. What do I mean by teacher driven? Every 7 years, the entire curriculum of the IB, every subject changes. Okay, they have their own cycle. So if I'm teaching philosophy, the philosophy curriculum will change in the 7th year. So if I'm teaching now, every 7 years it changes. And the syllabus, the new syllabus starts, supposing it starts in 2000, by 2002, okay, they will start sending out questionnaires to the teachers to say, what's your experience of teaching the syllabus? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? And they get small groups of teachers to kind of discuss, okay, and put together the new syllabus, so that by the time 5 years are over, the new syllabus is already gone for the print. Okay, so why is this done? This is done so that, the educational system is always relevant to the context. Okay, and believe me, this really works. Okay, and I've not seen this working anywhere else. Many other curriculums that we know, many other boards, there are just 8-10 people sometimes sit and decide what should be taught. Okay, this is the only educational system which has worldwide consultations on what should be taught, what shouldn't be taught, in what way it should be taught. They have consultations. Okay, and I want to give a very personal example here. Okay, when I started teaching the IB philosophy course, yeah, long time ago, okay, I'm as old as a dinosaur. I started teaching the IB philosophy course in 2001. Okay, when I started teaching the philosophy course at the higher level, we had about 25 texts, okay, which were given for, as suggested texts. Okay, and we had to do 2 tests for close reading. Okay, close reading of 2 philosophical texts. What I realized was there was not a single text from India included in that list of 25. Okay, so when this survey came to me, I mentioned that, that this philosophy syllabus is not really inclusive. Okay, we need to do something about it. Okay, and then later on, when we started this teacher small group discussions with other teachers across the world, I did suggest the Bhagavad Gita, and in the next round of when the curriculum was renewed, okay, in the next cycle, the Bhagavad Gita was added to the list of texts that could be used for close study. Okay, and of course, I picked up that text for close study with my students and taught it for literally 7 years. So that was the kind of personal example I want to give you to show how, though the IB is sitting there, okay, most of it happens from Geneva. Okay, yeah, though they are sitting there, and another office sits in the UK, but they are open to ideas from across the world. Okay, yeah, I'm taking a water break, just drinking a sip of water. Okay, so first one was philosophy, the philosophical underpinnings. The second one is the context. Okay, and I would say that, the IB has, okay, most of the things that are needed to cater to the changing context. All right. Unfortunately, okay, and this is something I didn't want to say it too loudly, but I will say it softly so that people who are okay in the teaching profession can reflect on this. That sometimes in the Indian system, in the Indian boards that are available, okay, there are still a lot of remnants, okay, of the industrial kind of model of education, okay, that you find. Okay, yeah, and these remnants, you can kind of see them in terms of what kind of philosophical underpinning is there in the Indian system, Indian boards. Okay, it's still sometimes, I can see that, I do a lot of teacher training just now, and I teach and I try to pass on the insights of the IB to CBSE, ICSE, and even the SSE in Maharashtra here. um, and I can see that there is this constant conflict between an old paradigm which is very much industrial in a way, and the new paradigm which is kind of focused towards the future, and trying to kind of cater to what our young people are going to face in this world. Okay, yeah. And when I go to the strengths of the IB, I will probably go one by one into them. Okay, so please give me another 15 to 20 minutes and I will conclude. Okay, yeah. And then I know you have lots and lots of questions, comments, contributions, and things like that. Okay, yeah. So these uh, strengths of the IB. Okay. Before we go to the strengths, I have a few exercises. Okay, these strengths that I'm going to talk about are very much from my experience. Okay, you will not find this in the IB documentation. And believe me, the IB has a lot of documentation available for sessions like this. Okay, I can pass those IB documents to the principal. You can send it around to the parents, and a lot of the questions that you want to ask me are already there in those documents. So I'm trying to pass on to you things that you will not find in the documents that the IB circulates. Okay, yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do. Okay, when it comes to the context, I want all of you. Okay, since you all can see the screen, but this I'm going to read. Okay, yeah. So I'm just going to tell you one part of the context that the IB student will probably encounter. Before you judge others, I'm reading now. Before you judge others or claim any absolute truth, consider this. Okay, consider this, yeah, that all of us can see only 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum and hear less than 1% of the acoustic spectrum. That means the sounds. So we can see only 1% of all the things that could be visible, and we can hear only 1% of the sound. That's how we are as human beings. Okay, we are made that way. Okay, we cannot see. Okay, just outside my, okay, I do beekeeping as well. I have a beehive just outside my window here. What the honey bee can see, I cannot see. They've got certain things that they can see much better than us. Okay, yeah, they've got the best GPS that we don't have. Okay, yeah. Similarly, as you read this or as you hear me just now, okay, you are traveling at 220 kilometers per second across the galaxy. Okay, that's the speed at which our planet is traveling, 220 kilometers per second. Can you believe it? We are zooming faster than a rocket across space. Now, the reason I'm saying this is that we all have this impression that we're just sitting here, okay, and we are motionless. Okay, and sometimes when you're teaching in a class, the knowledge that you pass on could just give into this. Okay, give into this. I sometimes call it the lazy mind of thinking that this is it. Okay, that you're sitting here and you're not still, you're moving at 220 kilometers per second across the galaxy. 90% of the cells in your body carry their own microbial DNA, and they are not you. Okay, 90% of the cells in your body are not you. Okay, the atoms in your body are 99.99% empty space. This is what contemporary physics will tell you. Okay, and none of these atoms are the ones you were born with. Okay, every 7 years we have a completely new body. Okay, and everything that you're made of probably came from some distant star. So all of us stars in a way. Okay, human beings have 46 chromosomes, two less than the common potato. Okay, worth thinking of it. Yeah, when we think of human beings, 46 chromosomes, just two less than the potato. Okay, the existence of the rainbow depends on the conical photoreceptors in your eyes. to animals without cones, the rainbow doesn't exist. So the rainbow which we see exists for human beings, doesn't exist for a lot of creatures on this planet. So we don't just look at the rainbow, we create it. This word create is very important. It will be coming again a little later. So you don't just look at the rainbow, you create it. This is pretty amazing, especially considering that all the beautiful colors that you see represent only 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum. Okay, now this is something that I've just put because when are we going to look at issues like this? Okay, and in the IB, in their physics class, in their theory of knowledge class, which I can talk a little about later, okay, they will in fact encounter these questions. Okay, they will encounter these questions. Okay, yeah. I'm going to do a small exercise for you. I don't know whether the tech support can unmute everybody after this exercise is over, because I want all of you to think about this simple thing, because I want to give you a taste of what the IB classroom looks like. Okay, sometime, yeah. So I will be giving you this exercise. Okay, wait, here. Okay, so there is this exercise that I want to give you. All right, all of us have had the experience of the setting sun. Okay, the setting sun. So I want you all to do something very simple. Now, wherever you're sitting, you can do this. All of us have seen the setting sun. Okay, I come from Goa, so most often in Goa, the sun sets into the sea. So you can sit on the beach and see the sun going down. Okay, yeah. If you're I live in Pune. Just now I see the sun going behind mountains. Okay, some of us see it going behind buildings. All of us seen the movement of the sun. So a very simple question, and I want you to write this answer. Okay, how long do you think, this is the question, how long do you think the sun takes to go down completely under the horizon from the moment it touches? Okay, so think of the horizon. The sun is going, it touched the horizon. You start your clock then, and then it completely glows down. Slowly it goes down, and then it is, okay, nightfall. In fact, you can see that little dot, and then it's kind of, the sun has set. How long, how many minutes, how many seconds, how many minutes does it take? I'll give you 2 minutes for everybody to write this down. Can you all write down, everyone? Try this. Okay, time's up. Time's up. Okay, I want a few people to share. If you can you unmute some people who want to speak, or maybe you can share. I want at least 10 answers quickly. Okay, quickly, because we have just shout out your answers, or maybe you can type it in the chat box as well. Maybe you can type it in the chat box, and I'll read out to you what people are saying. What's your answer in the chat box? Eight minutes. Good. I'm getting answers. Quickly type 8 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, 50 minutes. Good. I'm getting good answers. Okay. Anybody else, please keep typing. About an hour from Vijay Shukla. Thank you. Tanusha says 23 minutes. Atharva, 8 minutes. Atharva says 30 minutes. Oh, there are two Atharva. Atharva Divadi, 30 minutes. Ruchika, 60 minutes. Mohammad Aman says 6 minutes. Keep typing, 40 minutes. I'm just reading so that everyone knows. 5 minutes, 30, 60 minutes, 15 minutes. Good, 45. We're getting about an hour as 7.8 minutes. That's very precise. Thank you, Atharva Verma. Mustafa Khan says 60 to 70 minutes. Swati Dhawan says 50 to 60 minutes. Lovely. An hour. Most people think it's an hour. 1 minute, 1 hour, 26 minutes. Okay, thank you. Exercise over. Exercise over. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for cooperating. Okay. So we've got a spectrum. Oh, Dhruvi says 5 to 6 seconds. That's a fast-moving sun. Okay. I've got spectrum from 5 to 6 minutes to 1 hour 26 minutes. Okay. So think of this. 5 to 6 seconds. That means boom, the sun goes. Okay. Literally 5-6 minutes. And I've got 1 hour 26 minutes where you're sitting and watching this. Wonderful. Okay. The simple reason I'm doing this exercise is to tell you that if you were to sit with a watch and look at the sunset, okay, it takes about 1 minute 53 seconds for the sun to go down. Okay, you all can all try this today. Okay, yeah, that's what I tell my students. I'm telling you this. Okay, if you were to sit and watch it. It takes about 1 hour, 1 minute, 53 seconds, not 1 hour. Okay, 1 hour is too much. Okay, because the sun really moves fast. Now, the reason I'm doing this is that this is something very, very common experience for everybody, right? A sunset. And yet see how each of us experiences it in a very, very different way. Okay, in a very different way. Yeah, so what is the fact? The fact is what I told you, right? I went and set yesterday and I saw it 1 hour 53, 1 minute 53 seconds. Okay, that's the time it takes. Yeah. And now, well, this is the answer that I gave you. Now, all of you think that 1 minute 53 seconds is the right answer because I, as the teacher, have given it to you. Right? Right, so this is what happens in class. Okay, because there is a power dynamic, the teacher is always right. I give. Okay, so what I tell my students is go and check for yourself. Go and check for yourself. Okay, and then you go, because my answer also is related to the context. It depends on which part of the globe I'm on. Maybe all these answers are right depending on where you sit, which part of the planet you're sitting on. Okay, that's very important. And of course, my theory of knowledge students will tell all of you that even my question was wrong. Yeah, even my question was wrong, because I asked how long. Okay, Mr. Vinit Nair wants to speak. No, I thought your hand was up. Sorry, sir. Sorry. My students will tell you that there is no sunrise, there is no sunset. These are optical illusions. Okay, sun rises in the east and sets in the west is okay till you reach about the third or fourth standard. After that, you shouldn't be talking about sunrise, sunrise. The sun is not rising, the sun is not setting. These are just optical illusions. Okay, now that is the level at which a theory of, IB teacher takes the students onto that journey of going underneath knowledge. Okay, to try and really understand. Okay, yeah, and I'll be going back to my PowerPoint presentation. There is no sunrise, there is no sunset. These are optical illusions, and if you just believe the sun rises in the east, that's a fact that belongs to a very old paradigm. Okay, in the new paradigm, it doesn't make sense. Okay, it doesn't make sense, and therefore my question itself was wrong. Okay, how long does the sun take to set? The sun is not setting. Okay, in reality. Okay, okay, that was just a break so that we all wake up. And because I'm talking too much, I'm going to share the screen again so that I can quickly go back to my presentation. Okay, and if you all can see, okay, I just want to show you one more thing. This is the way I presented the question to you. You all can see my screen now, and I show you a very big sun. If I were to go and show you the next screen, okay, okay, and I showed you a small sun, okay, your answers will be quite different, because I presented a big sun to you. So you all said 1 hour, 1.5 hours. Okay, if I showed you a photograph of a tiny sun, you'll say, oh, definitely less than 5 minutes. Okay, again, the question itself also varies. Okay, all right. I'm coming back to my 10 points now. Okay, I'll also probably ask you one or two things to do in between. Okay, now I'm coming to the second part of my presentation, which I hope to finish in 15 minutes. Okay, please bear with me. Okay, I normally don't talk too much because the IB classes are always interactive. Okay, interactive, and I'll tell you why. Because of the strengths of the IB. Okay, so the number one strength that I put here is focus on understanding rather than memorizing. Okay, memorizing, rote learning, that is the way I grew up in my schooling system. Okay, we all studied for the test. We all studied for the exam. Okay, and the main question was, is this coming in the exam? If it's not coming in the exam, it's not relevant. Okay, yeah. But the IB focuses on understanding. So what happens is when you just memorize and learn for the exam, there is no real learning happening, because once you finish the exam, all that you learned is no longer relevant. Okay, but when you understand something, you understand it for life. Okay, and that's the beauty of it. So all of us as teachers, have to focus on understanding, not memorizing. Okay, this doesn't mean there are no facts. Okay, there are facts. Of course, there are facts. Okay, and you have to remember them probably. But if you understood how we reached that fact, you will never ever forget it. And I'm going to give you a simple example here. Okay, and some math teachers, physics teachers will probably sync with this fast. Okay, a simple question that most probably will come up in an IIT exam. It will come up in an exam for the IIM as well. Simple question, and most of us grow up knowing this. Okay, what is the sum of the internal angles of a triangle? Okay, the sum of the internal angles of a triangle, a very common fundamental foundational question in geometry, and everyone knows the answer is 180 degrees. The sum of the internal angles of a triangle is 180 degrees. No matter what shape you make the triangle in, it's always 180. Now my question to my students would be, is this always right? And all of them will say this is always right. Okay, and in my entire career, there's been just one student who told me that it is not always right. Okay, can you imagine? That's the amount of, rote learning that happens. Yeah, that students just believe that this is always right. Okay, and only one student. Can you imagine? I must have thought about maybe 5 to 10,000 students in my life, and one student has come up with this answer that is not always right. Okay, now remember that this statement is right provided there is one fundamental condition. Okay, and that condition is that this statement that the internal angles of a triangle equals 180 is right only on completely flat surfaces or perfectly flat surfaces. Okay, because that was the paradigm in Euclidean geometry that we teach even today. Unfortunately, yeah, we teach it. Probably it's necessary somewhere. Okay, Euclidean geometry. In Euclidean geometry, when we considered perfectly flat surfaces, this statement was right, that the sum of the internal angles, okay, of a triangle equals 180. Now remember that all of us live on this planet which is curved. Yeah, the earth is a ball. It's a sphere. So if the earth is a curved surface, where on earth is this statement correct? Where on earth is this correct? So this is one of the ways of understanding and teaching that happens in the IB. Okay, where you go one step below, underneath almost, okay, underneath, in fact, okay, to try and get to how did we reach this knowledge? How did this statement come about? And once a student sees and understands the paradigms underlying some of these statements, you will never forget it. Okay, yeah, so that is the whole idea of understanding rather than memorizing. I want to take you all back to Indian philosophy. Okay, I love doing this, so please bear up with me. Okay, we have a lot of holy books in India. Okay, and one set of holy books are called the Upanishads. Okay, yeah, so there are 12 main Upanishads and several other kind of sub Upanishads. Okay, the 12 main ones are filled with wisdom. Okay, now the very word Upanishad in Sanskrit, if you were to separate it, the word, and say Upanishad, okay, yeah, if you look at that, it literally means, okay, to put yourself under. Okay, to put yourself under. That's a literal translation, the etymology of the word Upanishad. Okay, and see the inside there. Okay, so put under what? Normally, of course, if you went to the Gurukul and there was a guru there and the guru taught you, so you put yourself at the feet of the guru and you were enlightened. Okay, that's one understanding of Upanishad. Okay, the other understanding is that you explore, you put yourself at the feet of reality, you put yourself at the feet of nature, and you understand. Okay, so see the insight. In order to understand, you need to stand under. Okay, yeah, in order to understand, you need to stand under. That's the beautiful insight which is there in the Upanishads. Okay, and so even the shepherds who went out grazing the cows, the sheep, they were also going to school. They were also going, enlightened. They also had wisdom. Okay, and just now I spend a lot of my time doing research in medicinal plants, and I interact with a lot of tribal people, and rural folk. I go and ask them, and there's so much wisdom there, so much understanding of how the human body works, how medicine works, how medicinal plants work. Okay, yeah, it's because of understanding. There is no memorizing that has happened there. Okay, fine, that's it. I won't spend too much time with the others, but this one I thought I would spend a little time with you. Okay, the second one, and this is linked very much to the context in the IB. the focus is very much on skills rather than merely giving information. Now, remember how this is linked to the previous point. Okay, understanding and skills go together, memorizing and information go together. Okay, how much of our time in classroom sometimes is just spent giving information? Remember, today the context that we live in is marked by what I like to call AG. Okay, once there was BC, then there was AD. Okay, now we live in an age called AG. AG means after Google. Okay, after Google, AG, all information is available to all our students on the palm of their hand. Okay, a simple phone. They have the phone, you give it to them, any information is available there. So teachers are not needed. Teachers are not needed to give information. Teachers are needed to give skills, and that's what the IB focuses on, very much skills. And a simple skill I will tell you, of course, there I can enumerate 100 skills probably that the IB will focus on. But one of the skills when I talk about Google is that when you search for anything on Google, you get sometimes 2 lakh pages, 3 lakh pages, 4 lakh pages. The IB will train you, okay, to sift these pages and try and see which information is relevant, which is not, which sources can you trust, which you cannot. Okay, that's a skill. Okay, the skill to evaluate information is a skill, but just having information is no longer a skill. Okay, and therefore people who are trained in rote learning, memorizing information, you can see that they will fall for a lot of scams. They will fall for some conspiracy theories. Okay, but some people who are trained in this skill to evaluate, to think critically, okay, that's a great skill. You will see that they will probably look at it a double time, a third time, a fourth time, okay, and try and see whether it makes sense or no. Okay, that much. Okay, we'll come back to this. If you all are interested for me to speak a little more on any of these issues, we can do that. I'm running through just now because yeah, we're keeping a tab on time as well. Okay, third is this way of learning. Okay, exploratory or inquiry based learning. Okay, this caters mainly to creative thinking, out of the box thinking, and all that. Okay, in the classroom the focus is very much to allow the kids to inquire, to explore. Okay, and therefore sometimes we have students coming from the Indian system joining an IB school. When I was a principal, and very often I had these complaints from the parents saying, oh, aaj teacher ne kuch nahi sikaya, yeah, she didn't teach anything to my student today, okay, to my child today. Yeah, that's the thing, because the teachers are seen differently. Okay, the teachers are not there to give information. They are not these vessels holding information that they're going to pour into the empty brains of the students. Okay, the students are there to motivate. Okay, because all our young people, remember, have curiosity. We need to tap into that curiosity. Yeah, not just kill it. Most of the classes sometimes can kill curiosity. Okay, so a teacher very often will give one question and allow the child to explore. Okay, and there are no necessarily lectures that happen. Okay, I taught philosophy for so many years without ever giving a lecture. Okay, it's only questions, case studies, real life experiences. Okay, so this is also what we call project based education. This is also called experiential education. Okay, yeah, so this is something that is at the heart of the IB. So when an IB teacher makes a lesson plan, you first have the first question of inquiry. Do you want your students to explore today? That's what we look for, okay, in a good lesson plan. And linked to that, of course, is this understanding. Point number 4 is that the students need to construct their own knowledge. Okay, so constructivism is a school of philosophy, of course, where, okay, we believe that if a student can construct their own knowledge rather than get it from a teacher, they will never ever forget it. Okay, so how, see, everything that I say is something that I will say in the conclusion. Okay, this is not just for the exam. This is not just for your first job. What we are giving is for life. Okay, yeah, it's an education for life. So students constructing their own knowledge, very, very important. Okay, so in the class, when they are exploring, they come up with their own insights. Okay, and so that's very, very significant. I'll say a little bit about this more in one more point that's coming after this. Okay, focus on critical thinking skills, and also very much at the heart of the IB. Okay, when you look at the IB diploma, they've got their, okay, the entire program in the form of a diagram, and right at the center of it are three things: theory of knowledge, extended essay, CAS. Okay, yeah, and the next 3 points are focused on that. So the theory of knowledge course is a course that helps the students go again underneath every area of study. Okay, so if they are studying mathematics, how is mathematical knowledge constructed? If they are studying art, how is artistic knowledge constructed? If they're studying ethics, how is ethical knowledge constructed? So it looks at how knowledge is constructed, and therefore it kind of develops critical thinking skills through that program. Okay, yeah. Again, more if you all are interested, otherwise I'm moving a little fast here. Number 6, focus on research skills. More than any other board in the world, the IB focuses on research skills through an extended essay, a 4,000 word essay, that a research essay, okay, it has to be an original research essay that the students have to write already in their 11th, 12th standard, okay, on a subject of their choice. Yeah, they can do this on, on a subject that they are studying, or even a subject that they're not studying. Yeah, but they choose an area that interests them, come up with a good research question with the help of a guide, and then do research, do real life research. Okay, so they go out, do their surveys, all that, and come up with real research and present their findings through, okay, the extended essay. Number 7, very important, okay, building of empathetic and action oriented character, okay, through this program called CAS. Okay, you all have all read about this, I know. Creativity, action, and service, that's what CAS stands for. Every student is expected to spend a lot of time in 2 years in the diploma program, okay, doing activities linked to creativity, doing activities linked to action, and activities linked to service, 3 separate components. Okay, and one of the things I as an educator feel very much is that our young people today, increasingly, sometimes you feel, okay, they are lacking in compassion. How do we educate our kids for compassion? Okay, and I think CAS, okay, as I have understood it personally, being in school leadership roles, okay, and conducting a lot of workshops for CAS and service learning, this is a program that can actually develop, okay, empathy, compassion in young people. Okay, yeah, they take up activities where they are actually serving. Okay, whether it is teaching English to the watchmen of your society, or teaching music to the kids in your society, they take up all kinds of actions. Of course, looking after animals, planting trees, working on the environment, all of those activities, they actually become empathetic young people who can empathize with the suffering, with the pain that is there in this world, and reach out to people. Okay, and not just being empathetic, but also taking action to make this world a better place. Okay, yeah. Number 8, a very significant part of the IB, okay, individual attention. Okay, the class sizes are regulated. You can't have 60, 70, 80 students in the class. The IB mandates, okay, not more than 25 students in a class, not more than 20 students in a class. Okay, and individual attention. Yeah, and that and differentiated teaching I put separately there, because differentiation is very, very important. It's now become the heart of the IB as well, that your teaching has to cater to each individual student differently. Okay, normally when you're teaching a large class, all of us teachers, we kind of pitch the class to the middle students. Okay, so what happens is that the very bright students, they get bored in the class, and the ones who are weaker, they also can't make much sense of it. Okay, we kind of pitch the class to the middle. Okay, so what the IB asks every teacher to do is to kind of look at the strengths of each student, and there are special tests that are done. Okay, the most common one is called map testing. Okay, there are several, but we used to follow map testing, okay, which is called the measure of academic progress. Okay, the map testing gives you a scale of every student, where they are with their mathematical skills, with their language skills. You can look at that, and so each student can be catered to differently. The other thing, very quickly, I'll mention here, because that can be a separate session in itself, is the different intelligences. Okay, now we have so much new understanding of how learning happens. Okay, and this goes back to the context. Okay, that we have understanding of how the brain works. Okay, we have understanding that simultaneously there are 3 brains in operation. Okay, and unfortunately we have always taught only the outermost brain. There are 2 other brains that we don't teach at all. Okay, and maybe there's no time to talk about it in this session. Okay, similarly, there are 10 different types of intelligences or 8 different types of intelligences. And therefore, if a student is getting bored and we say, oh, he's bored in class, he's not interested, okay, it means that the student has not failed, it is the school that has failed. Yeah, we have not been able to identify the strengths and the kind of intelligence that that particular student has. Maybe that student has musical intelligence, okay, or he has spatial intelligence, or what we would call kinesthetic intelligence. Okay, there are all kinds of intelligences, and unfortunately we've only taught probably what we call the logical rational intelligence that a lot of us have. Okay, so that is something that the level to which the IB will go in order to make sure that every kid becomes a success. Okay, there should not be a failure in the IB system. If there is a failure, it's the failure of the institution, it's the failure of us teachers. Okay, and I used to take that very, very personally if a student failed, saying, how did we fail him? Okay, it's not that the student failed, it's we who failed the student. Okay, so that is something which is a strength of the IB. Number 9, okay, quickly, educational and career pathways that are provided by the school through university guidance. Okay, every IB diploma school has a university guidance counselor. Okay, and the counselor has a lot of meetings with this child to understand the child. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? And then accordingly map out this career pathways for the child. And of course, make sure that the tertiary education also happens. I'm not saying much here because this is something that you know enough about. Okay. And finally, number 10, very important, I think, is the focus on mental health. Okay, mental health is becoming a very, very serious issue with young people. Okay, we are very quickly, India is catching up with the top countries in the world where suicide rates among young people are climbing. Okay, because of the pressure we put on them, because of the stress that we put them through. Okay, so IB schools also focus on mental health, and then there is one particular session held every week for every student on personal and social health issues, where we look at interpersonal relationships, we look at personal growth, we look at physical health, mental health, everything. Okay, and this is something that has to come up probably in every school on this planet. Okay, because mental health issues are very, very important. We've neglected them for too long. Okay, my last statement is the conclusion. So what I would like to say is that what I've presented to you with the philosophy, with the context, and with the strengths is an educational system that aims to prepare young people to build a life. Okay, to build a life rather than merely make a living. Okay, it's something that helps young people to kind of find meaning, okay, and build a meaningful life rather than just focus on the first job that they may get. Okay, and similarly, okay, given the context, it helps young people to live with uncertainty, to live with ambiguity, to live with change. Okay, and with the ability to cope with rapid change as well as to cope with failure. Okay, because there's lots of scope within the IB diploma where students do end up having setbacks, and the teachers are trained to help them to even learn from those setbacks and failure. Okay, and carry on, and don't see failure as an end point where you have to end up by killing your life. Okay, ending your life, killing yourself. Okay, so that is the kind of education that the IBDP wants to give. Okay, with that I will stop, okay, and say thank you for being such patient listeners. Okay, it was my pleasure, and I'm now open to questions, comments, clarifications, okay, and additions. Okay, remember that there are no, I'm not going to show you that that thing that just came. Okay, yeah, here I am. So any questions, clarifications? Okay, I can see 180 degrees answers in the chat box. Okay, thank you all of you for that. Okay, yeah, 180 degrees internal angle answer in chat box. I missed that. Okay, so here over to you, Hi. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Upati ma'am was saying.
I was saying we had Kabir Rustagi who had his hand up and he probably wanted to ask something. So if Kabir is here with us, may I request Kabir either type down question or you may ask. I'll request Mr. Ram or Mr. Kabir, or you may all, and if there's any question, you can just ask your question here. Rest of us can keep our mics mute, please. So while we wait for Kabir, I think I can pose a question to you, Mr. Hector, because that was one question which was very common, and I think just about almost 8 of the parents asked me that question when we had our first orientation regarding this IB. So it was, we've mentioned in our FAQs also, but I would really request if you could elaborate it a little more for everyone here to understand. So the question that was the most common from the parent community was, how does IB prepare for ITJ? Or is there no option if you take up IB? Will there ever be plan B if they intend to stay back in India? So if you can just throw some light on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's a question that has been thrown at me for 20 years. Okay, yeah. Very, very common question, and it has been a serious question for the IB in India at all. Also, okay, the IB in India has been very, very concerned about that question. Okay, and in fact, they've worked very, very hard. Okay, to kind of make sure that parents feel comfortable. Simply because the IB in a way is one of the fastest growing syllabus across the world. Okay, and in India as well. Okay, remember now we have close to 200 IBDP schools in this country. 200. Okay, and if 200, so you can imagine how many IB diploma holders are coming out every year. Particularly, there are 120 PYP schools, and the middle year program is not so popular, though they've improved it a great deal. Yeah. So the IB has worked very, very hard, and I don't think there's a problem today. I'll tell you what the problems are, of course. Okay, because I focused only on the strengths of the IB. Okay, and yeah, that's a concern simply because of one reason, and that reason is that the IB results come late. Okay, the IB results are normally declared on the 6th of July, and that becomes a problem for many of other schools and colleges because all the because of Corona, of course, this year we are late, but otherwise all the admissions are offered by the first week of June probably in India, or latest by the middle of June. Okay, so a few things. First of all, the IB is recognized by every university in India. No university can deny you admission because of the IB. That's point number one. Okay, and I will send across a document which in fact the IB sends around. Okay, it's there on the IB website, and I can send it around. The IB, in fact, uh, has put out this statement that the AIU, which is the Association of Indian Universities, they have it on the website that the IB diploma is recognized as 12th standard equivalent. Okay, so therefore you can apply to any university and college in India. Okay, so the problems come when you have to prepare for the entrance exams. Okay, that's a genuine problem. Okay, and I'll put it this way, that you don't have the time to prepare for that entrance exam while doing the IB diploma. The IB diploma is very intensive. Okay, it's very demanding, and therefore you don't have time then to go your FG or whatever. It's very difficult. Okay, so one of the things that we suggest to students is, of course, you can try that exam, but a lot of the students actually take a gap year, because if that is something that is your goal, okay, taking a year off and actually preparing after the IBDP is something that can be done. Okay, and I know a lot of students who do that because as I said in my presentation, there is a kind of a mismatch between exams, tests, like the ones that we give in India, and the IB exam. It gives you fascinating skills. So some of the analytical skills and all that are fascinating. You'll do very well on those points. Okay, but some of the factual questions may not be exactly covered. Okay, so you can take a break and do that. Okay, some students also take the break between the 11th and 12th. Okay, IBDP 1, DP2, and use that break to prepare. Okay, yeah, so you can do that. All right. Secondly, there are several colleges in India which also give you a kind of they give you admission based on predicted grades. Okay, remember that all universities abroad give admissions based on predicted grades. Okay, they don't wait for the final results at all. So by the end of the first year, you already have predicted grades given by the school saying this is what your result will look like in 2 years' time. And universities abroad give yourself admission based on that. In India as well, lots of colleges give you admission based on that. Okay, and those lists of colleges are available on the net. Okay, yeah. So remember that that is possible. In fact, some universities also give you conditional admissions based on those predicted grades, which is fine because you just have to live up to those predicted grades. Okay, so that's point number two. Point number one, take a gap year. Point number two, work with extra hard work. Start your preparations little early. Remember that if there are 100 students, only about 3 will kind of go to the IIT. Okay, that's what happens. Okay, so to cater the whole educational system for the IIT doesn't make sense. Okay, or for medicine. So there are colleges. Okay, so now this is for the entrance exam to IIT, medicine, and IIM happens later probably. Yeah. So those kind of entrance exams. So there are lots of colleges in India which are today offering the same educational programs that are offered in the US. Okay, so liberal education is available, and they are really good colleges. Okay, for me, okay, if I'm a little biased, probably I put Ashoka University as there, very, very important. Okay, OP Jindal. There is Flame University where I myself taught for 4 years. Okay, there are these very good colleges that have come up which give you seamless educational experience from the IB in India. Okay, so these are my responses to that question of what happens to study in India. From my own experiences, people who have done IB in India have also joined Indian IITs. They have joined Indian medicine colleges. They have done that. Okay, definitely. But most certainly, if you want to go abroad, of course, the IB works magic. Okay, literally works magic. My own daughter went to New York this year after finishing the IBDP, and she's topping everything at the university. Okay, that just I think is the training that the IBDP program gave her. Okay, yeah. So that's my response, Supriti. I hope
Yes,
it
yes,
helps.
it does. It does.
And I will send to you, ma'am, this a document which is there from the IB, which in fact outlines, yeah, maybe most of the things I've said. Okay, except the personal experience, it outlines, and because the IB is concerned, and they are constantly working, okay, with the Indian universities to make more and more acceptable. Yeah, maybe one point that I also missed is that if you tell the IB that you're applying to India, they'll also give you a separate transcript giving you percentages which are translating the IB grade into percentages for the Indian universities. Okay, and they send that as well. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Thank you so much, Mr. Hector. In fact, your response was very reassuring for me also to learn from in case I'm handling different queries hereafter. Because as you very rightly said somewhere in your presentation that especially in our current scenario, the Indian scenario, that we really haven't really moved so much from the old paradigm, and that is why that fear in the parent community, that what if he doesn't make it well, what if he doesn't make it abroad, then what are the chances as a backup option? And probably I can understand that's where the question is stemming from. So thank you so much for letting us know that
I just want to add
prepared for life and not
just one more
please.
point I want to add to the parent community. Okay, very important to know this as well. Okay, if you are not afraid, okay, many parents are afraid of sending their kids abroad. Okay, if you're not afraid, and if your child tries to apply abroad, there are some really good scholarships that are available. Okay, so very often it's not a question of money. Okay, I'll tell you something which which will appear a little shocking to you. My daughter secured just 32 marks out of 45 at the IB. Okay, 32, yeah, which is average, and she got 90% scholarship to study at one of the top universities. Okay, simply because of all the other things that she had done in her life. So it's not only the grade that we are focusing on. Okay, sometimes we think, oh, if my kid doesn't get 40, okay, just for those who don't know, at the IB, the highest grade you can get is 45 out of 45 points. Okay, and 45 to 45. So, people think if they don't get above 40, they won't make it anyway. No, she's got a 90% scholarship in a New York college with just 32. Okay, which means that, the university guidance counselors at good schools will help you shape the application in such a way that it shows you how you're good at so many other things. Maybe you're not good at answering exams. Okay, you're not good at answering exam. That shouldn't be an obstacle for failure, but you are very good at sports. You're very good at art. Okay, universities are picking students like that. They don't want toppers only. They want people who have other things, other things to contribute to their campus lives. Okay, so that's just an addition for people who feel a little worried about IB grades. Yeah, okay.
So I think Mugdha, you can take up the questions. They're mostly I think asking, Nupur has just asked, how much useful will this IBDP for the students who have done their 10th from CBSE? So that's a question from Ms. Nupur Bansal. So how does it help them? How does that IBDP add value to children who have studied in grade 10 so far?
Yeah, I think my presentation has given you the kind of movement. Okay, you literally move from one paradigm to another. Okay, and it gives you those skills which very much are lacking, I would say. I'm sorry, I know that y'all run a CBSE school, so you know that y'all definitely focus on skills as well, but not to the extent that are present in the IB. Okay, especially with the theory of knowledge course. Okay, that's one course that I think I missed in my schooling, and I could see, I can actually understand where I would be if I had that course at the 11th and 12th standard. Okay, just the theory of knowledge course. Okay, amazing. Similarly, the this thing, the extended essay, the CAS. Okay, all of these are strengths that will help any student. Okay, let me put a word of caution here though. Okay, there will be a bit of a struggle when you move from CBSE to the IB, because the kind of questions and answers that are expected are very different. Okay, the IB has a different way of grading. Okay, it's called a criterion based kind of marking system. Okay, where there are A, B, C, D. So you get, your answers are graded based on 4 criteria that you have to meet. Okay, in most of the things. Okay, it's of course there in the IB documentation, but I'll just repeat. Okay, first, knowledge and understanding. Okay, how do you understand that? Okay, critical thinking skills. Okay, how do you respond to the arguments? Okay, personal response, how do you personally respond to it? And of course your writing skills. So all of 4 are graded in most of the assignments.
Right.
Okay, and so therefore it's not just one right or wrong question. Your answer may be completely wrong, you'll still get half the grade because the other things are there. Okay, so just remember that. So useful. Okay, the question was useful. I think the more question will be, how difficult will it be for them to make the transition, right? So I've kind of catered to both the questions in that one.
So any tips on how to make that transition that you've said? How can the transition be easier for them as 10th graders?
Yeah, and we'll be coming back to you, Miss Lucy Massey, just after Mr. Hector's response. I've noted your hands up.
Yeah, yes, very quickly, I think a good orientation program helps. A good orientation program where you put them through everything. Okay, one thing is, how are the classes structured, right? So they are discussion based, inquiry based, project based, experiential learning based. It's a huge transition from a class where you just sit and listen to 2 + 2 = 4, some of the internal angles equals 180, those things. From there you move to creating your own knowledge. So from instruction, pedagogical methods to evaluation, which is very important. How are you getting evaluated? Once you understand how you're getting evaluated in the orientation, you'll see how every exam that you answer at the IB, you'll be knowing, oh, have I completed criterion A? Have I catered to criterion D? Okay, it's not just a right and wrong answer. So if you have a solid orientation right at the start, even if it is 15 days, I would say you're not missing much. Okay, this helps the students make that transition. Okay, and for some of you, if you know that students have already kind of applied and got into your IB program, use the summer break. Okay, remember that the IB in most schools starts only in the middle of July. So you got the whole month of May. You can call the students 1 month early and just give them an orientation, and then the actual program can start.
So may I request Mr. Ram to unmute Miss Lucy Massey, because I believe she raised her hand twice over. She wants to ask something. Mr. Ram, Mr. Jagender, could you please, ma'am, could you please try and unmute? Yes, you're unmuted. Yes, please.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is in answer to your question, ma'am, when you said about students of CBSE or SSC coming to IB, we have many such students who come from such backgrounds. And I found that their knowledge is very good.
Great.
Their knowledge is absolutely good. Only we have to train them for their skills. Like as Sir said, Mr. Hector said, their communication skills, their critical thinking skills, and this comes from the teachers. The way they ask them questions, the way they prepare their class. So many times we feel, oh, the class is only having discussion, but that discussion helps them to think ahead and how to apply the life situation into the context, which really helps them. And I found CBSE students sometimes really doing well, really doing very well. That's what I wanted to tell the parents also, that do not hesitate. I mean, it is really a very good program.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for that insight.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So I can see another question. It says, what would be the right age for students to opt for IBDP, or how to prepare a child for this?
Yes.
How would you?
My normal answer to that, because that's a question also that gets asked me quite frequently in Pune itself, and I normally think, grade 8 is a good time to begin. Okay. If you really want to make a total success of it and not waste that time in transition and all that, grade 8 is very good, because now the IB has shored up its, MYP program after a lot of feedback from, schools around the world. We gave them a lot of feedback on the middle years program. Okay. The MYP is the middle years program. PYP is the primary years program. In the middle years program, the IB has in fact incorporated a lot of good things. Okay, like even this theory of knowledge, it just doesn't come as a shock to them when they reach the DP, right? It's already incorporated in the 9th standard, 10th standard, okay? It already comes in there.
Right.
So I would think, okay, but that doesn't mean, as Massey ma'am also said, okay, the transition is not that tough. I have a lot of good students who've come from the CBSE, ICSE. They are up and running very, very quickly once they understand, the rules of the game. That's it.
So many of our teachers want to know about the training needed to teach this program. And if one of the teachers is asked, that is a PYP trained teacher, can she teach IBDP? What are the teachers, what transition teachers have to do?
Yeah, I mean, PYP may be a little kind of far-fetched, because all these programs have their own focus because of the age-related things, So the higher level thinking skills which are available in the DP are nowhere to be seen there. Okay, yeah. So there will be a training needed for, or even a PYP trained teacher to teach the DP. Okay, PYP to MYP of 3, 4, MYP 1, 2, 3 is okay. Okay, because there's some continuity there. But once you reach the DP, the level of skills is quite different. So I think they will need training. Okay, most certainly. And because in the PYP, there's no theory of knowledge as well. Okay, because now what the IB has done, in every subject, they've incorporated theory of knowledge. So a math teacher also teaches theory of knowledge. Okay, yeah. So that will definitely be lacking, and I think there will be upgrading, skilling necessary.
So as I understand, that would go for all teachers who aspire to, at some point, would like to become an IB teacher, and they're right now, let's say, CBSE. So my understanding from your response would be that with trainings, they all can transition into becoming an IB teacher, right?
I would.
Yeah.
I would.
Thank you.
Ask a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I wanted to say thank you so much, Hector, for coming. I thought of you at once when the word IB was mentioned, and I got most of my learning in Lonavala from you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, most of the learning I got from you.
Thank you.
I remember the medicinal plants even now. Okay, I just wanted to assure the parents and add to what you have said, that the new education policy that has been conceived of by the government of India in the area of education, the ministry, even the CBSE, is now quite soft on letting other learning systems into that, closed door, letting them in. So I think they are going to be very, very generous about allowing CBSE schools later on to also allow IBDP programs. I think this is the need of the hour. They feel it's the need of the hour, and I think they're not going to stop it. And I wanted to give two advantages, which probably the parents know. choice of subjects, the total choice that is given to children is not so tight as in the other systems in India. And you can link up subjects of your choice, like music and physics or science and something else. And you can do things which you like and you enjoy, and you probably will do marvelously at those things. So that freedom to select subjects of your choice is there. And the other thing which I felt very good, it's a compassionate program for special needs children. They always look at special needs children with a very compassionate eye and see what they can do to, I think, make them go further in terms of, you know, accommodating them time-wise, exam-wise, in every which they can, so that even a special needs child with special, quite serious special needs can manage to get a certificate in the diploma program. I mean, you can get the certificate at least. And it's happened in our school in Lonavala. This has happened. Of course, our school in Lora, the children are all over the world now. But one of the girls wrote 2 books while in school, Shreya, and she did a startup the first year in Princeton when she went. And she's, I suppose, very rich now. She has venture capital funding for her program. Beautiful program. She's affiliated to 150 worldwide schools with her startup. And the last thing I wanted to say is something to reassure everybody that, you know, India was not always out of this liberal thinking story. As a matter of fact, when Rabindranath Tagore set up Shanti Niketan, Vishwa Bharati, as it's called, Vishwa Bharati, Vishwa and Bharat. It was the West and the East and the Orient. And he set it up. It was the first IB school in my view. And exactly what he said in the stanza, sit outside trees and learn. You know, he said the stanza in the stanza, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. Every information going through the windows of your mind, everything going back and forth. Tagore verse, this particular verse stands sentinel outside my school in DPS with the portrait of the great poet philosopher, I will say, IB teacher. It's right out there outside in a huge hoarding, 31 feet by 31 feet. And the stanza has been quoted that it was planted there when the school's foundations were laid. And it was on this basis that we wanted to run the school. However, we couldn't just jump into IB. It's a difficult program. So we started the DPS school in the DPS way with a CBSE program. But I want to reassure the parents, absolutely reassure the parents, that our present DPS school also has a pretty liberal mindset in terms of our teachers, in terms of welcome teachers who come from an IB background, giving them training in future. We are very liberal. So thank you, Hector. I have refreshed my knowledge, brought it up to date with many, many things to store in my mind. But Vineet and I together remember you a lot.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for those kind words. Yeah.
I think it'll reassure the listeners.
Yes, thank you,
so
ma'am.
much.
Yeah, Mugdha, I think you can
Yes.
kind of propose.
Thank you all so much. And thank you, Hector, sir, for this wonderful session. And, you know, we all have understood that in order to understand, we have to stand under. So that is my takeaway for the day today. And I'm sure all our parents and teachers who've joined us here, and Deva ma'am, Vineet sir, Shivanand sir, and Supriti ma'am, all of you, all of us have together collaborated, and I'm sure all of us are, you know, more informed today. So thank you so much for this, sir. And of course, we will share any queries that we get from our parents with you. Supriti ma'am, of course, will be in touch with you. And thank you all the parents for joining. Thank you, heads, for joining. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you. I'll have the last
Yes,
word.
please.
Yeah, I was
Yes.
really happy to be here and to share this with you on this auspicious day of Gandhi Jayanti. In fact, Gandhi himself, you know, a product of international education. Okay, and somebody who saw the world, who kind of, you know, really believed that the unity of the country is very, very important for us to progress and move ahead. Okay, so it's a right day to have this. Okay, and he also highlighted the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which is also at the heart of the IB. Okay, yeah. So thank you so much, and it was my pleasure being here. Thank you.
So Vineet sir wants to say something. May I please request Vineet sir?
I just want to thank Hector for his very illuminating talk. In many ways, I felt kind of envious because I never had the privilege of this education. But I do believe that education as it is given in Indian schools in a typical fashion is somewhat limiting because it doesn't show multiplicity of choices which can be made and multiplicity of options, a multiplicity of views. And it doesn't mean that one is right and other is wrong. Yes, Indian education gives one great family that builds a memory muscle. But I think the holistic way in which this program looks at education is far healthier. I'm hoping that we, in our traditional schools, will pick up some of these capabilities, but that does not in any fashion deny the superiority of this education over other education, especially when we go into the world or even when we go into the universities. In fact, one of the most frightening moment is when we go from school to college, and a good college, I'm saying, that suddenly you're on your own. This gives you a training to go not only to your higher education, but go through life, recognizing that there is the uncertainty of every step, whether it's a good or bad, yet you have to take that step and accept failure and rebuild ourselves. I think in that way, I see this form of education in many ways superior to the others. Unfortunately, cost is a little high in relation to what most parents can afford. But again, I would say, please consider, please look at it and see if this additional investment is worth your while. In my view, it definitely is. In my view, Supriya, we need to bring in some of these concepts even in our education. It is not necessarily limited to, it should not be limited to IB. Thinking, critical thinking, right to differ, and yet reconcile. These are skills which are needed all through life. Let us see how we can build them.
True, sir.
But I would say, Hector, thank you so much. And
Thank you, sir.
I would separately call you and would want to lean on your experience, your way you have functioned, and how you can help us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Goodbye.
everyone. Have a lovely day.
You
Bye-bye.
have a lovely day. Thank you, folks, for all the time you have taken, especially the parents.
Yeah.
Please consider, please think it through, and let us see what your responses are. On that basis, we'll continue, start this program.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a
Bye.
lovely day. Namaskar.